Okay, we're gonna have a little bit of an update on Kobani here because, like, the journalists really aren't getting it now. They were closer the other day. I guess um, all the propaganda did this work and confusing them. So let's just forget everything you think you know about Kobani, and instead let's um, just be bluntly, brutally realpolitik in understanding what's on the map in front of us. So Kobani was at one point a part of, I think I said Iraq the other day. I misspoke. It's northern Syria. Um, in the midst of the civil war, it's been taken over by Kurdish forces, which of course the Turks do not like. And so somehow nobody in the room is able to process how it might be that the Turks may be reluctant to participate to protect a Kurdish stronghold. And the government, or the spokesperson here, continues to try and get across the idea that letting Kobani fall is. So see, the reporters are trying to make it seem like as though, Americans just don't care about Kobani, or it's just not that important, or whatever else, right? It's the reporter the other day used the term collateral damage. She used it incorrectly, but it's the idea, right? That this is a city that if it falls, it doesn't make any difference. And the spokesperson is gently and very carefully, because she can't come right out and say it, but very gently trying to explain that, in fact, it's not that the city of Kobani is unimportant to American strategic interests, but that it is in American strategic interests to allow Kobani to fall. Now, again, I kind of stopped the other day. I think that we've seen. I've got enough implicit deduction from what the secretary is saying here. I know that's not evidence, and I stopped because of it. It was deductive, but we're gonna plow ahead anyways. And I mean, this was years ago. Now I can look it up. Um, I'm not going to, but okay. So Kobani is currently under the control of Syrian Kurds, right? You've got Syrian Kurds, you've got Turkish Kurds, and then you've got Iraqi Kurds, and you've got Iranian Kurds as well. Who are the Kurds? My understanding is that the word Kurd, what it means is it means refugee, right? It was an Arabic word, and that while attempts have been created to create a backstory for these Kurds, the reality is that none exists prior to about the year 700 or so, which was about the time, roughly, that the Arabic forces swept through the region and pushed the people that didn't want to deal with it out. Who are the Kurds? The Kurds are the people that lived in the region before the Arabs pushed them out, and they've been hanging out in the mountains ever since. They may have descendants from other groups, but it kind of trying to say the Kurds are, uh, the Kurds are the Medes or the Kurds are lost. Or you're missing the point. About the year 650 or so, 650, 650 years after the beginning of the Common Era. Um, the Kurds at that point would have just been cosmopolitan Iraqis, mostly um, Iraqis and Syrians that lived in the cities like Baghdad. Um, I guess it wasn't Baghdad yet. What was it? Was it still Babylon, or was it called something else by then? Did they rename it Alexandria? Ctesiphon? What was the area went through a long, like, Greco-Persian phase, right? So I mean, that is most people don't think of it. I don't know if they have it like attached to concepts of colonialism or something, but um, in actuality, I guess it was about 300 years before the Common Era to about 600 years after, 700 years after. So it was a good 1,000 years where the Mesopotamian area was mostly Greek in culture, Greek and Persian. It was right in the middle, right? And there were lots of wars fought there between Rome and Persia, but um, the people that lived there would have been basically Romans, with Greek and Persian uh, 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 aspects of their culture, right? And indigenous aspects as well. But it wouldn't really make any sense to suggest that they were indigenous, even if they have indigenous genetic roots, because they weren't. They were Romans. And that's why you can't find them in the history, because they just lived in the cities. They probably mostly migrated, or at the very least, there was probably a lot of mixing, right? So that's who the Kurds probably actually are. Now, if this wasn't meant to be about the origin of the Kurds, that's a completely different issue, right? And if we want to go down this road here, it's a very, very rocky road with uh, many pitfalls, and the thing you have to understand is that the actual fact of it is that there is no evidence. And all of these different stories are just designed to uphold a political perspective, right? So the Iranians have one story, and then the Russians have another story. I don't even know if the Russians have a story, but um, the Kurds have their own story, which is that they just appeared out of nowhere. The only evidence we really have is that they speak Iranian, right? So that's kind of my that's my perspective on this. They're called refugees. The word Kurd means refugee in Arabic, and that's literally what they were. They were refugees from the Arab invasion of Mesopotamia and the areas around what is today Babylon and Assyria, or what were even before then Babylon and Assyria. Today Iraq and Syria. Um, but yeah, the Kurds are in control of this area around Kobani, right? The Turks can't bomb the Kurds. I mean, they could, but it would be optical problems with Europe, with all kinds of different people, right? Um, Americans don't want to bomb the Kurds either, but so the reason that this is a strategic objective is because if they allow Kobani to fall to ISIS, then they can bomb the region and either hand it over to whatever ends up in power in Syria, or potentially to the Turkish military. If they allow Kobani to remain in Kurdish hands, then they're going to have to deal with the problems that creates. She can't say that. But oftentimes when they're in this situation where she can't say something, you can tell that they understand what she's trying to say. They're not getting this. They're not understanding, and there seems to be often this issue where any kind of like feigned weakness or anything that deviates. The media likes binary, right? The media is fundamentally incapable in getting beyond black and white narratives. Um, Maybe there was a time when that's because it's what they needed to push down. I think that the actual sad truth of it nowadays is that that's really all that most of the journalists are capable of understanding. There's the odd one that can, kind of get through the subtleties of it, but most of them, the people that Fox sends or the people that CNN sends, they're just like, they just want black and white issues, and that's it. They cannot think of any kind of concept of any sort of subtlety. And so this idea that America may be winning by losing is very hard for them to understand or even take cues on. They really need someone to hold them by the hand and take them through and very carefully explain it to them, which cannot be done in this format. And we're seeing the consequence of it. Again, this is what day is this? This is October 9th, 2016. I want to see some sadly confused reporters and a frustrated press secretary. Then go for it. But yeah, this is it's not that the Americans aren't doing anything to protect Kobani because they're like incompetent or something. No, they want Kobani to fall because they don't want to have to bomb the Kurds.